broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Good evening, AfterBuzzers. Welcome to Season 10, Episode 9 of Face Off, Bottled Up. All genie-themed. And shout out to Kim Lechman, who picked our opening song tonight on Twitter. Cool. If you want to be like Kim and talk to us and have your awesome thoughts and opinions on the show, then tweet us using that hashtag ABTVFaceoff. Be sure to subscribe, rate, comment, keep up with us, do all that good stuff. If you're watching us on YouTube, listen to us on iTunes, and if you're on iTunes, watch us on YouTube. I'm your host, Alana Jordan. You can find me on Twitter at Alana Jordan, and tonight I am joined by my full panel of awesome ladies. Yay! Alexis Torres has stepped out of the booth.
Yes, they let me out for one night only. You can find me all over social media at atorres890.
I'm Emma Fyffe. You can follow me all over the internet at Emma Fyffe.
And I'm Michelle Cullen. You can find me on the Twitter at Michelle_Cullen.
And we are super excited because joining us tonight, the man himself, the curve breaker, Rob Seal.
Hey guys.
Rob, you were crushing it. You've
Yes,
just been consistently just on top of it this season.
I try.
Well, you succeed, and we're very excited to have you here
I'm excited
with
to
us.
be here. This is fun.
Especially for this episode. This was such a cool one.
Yeah, it was.
I love when we get our foundation challenges thrown in before we get our spotlight challenges, and this one was a pretty cool one.
It was.
To kick off with all of these crazy winged creatures. You walk into the lab and you're told that you are going to be making these Valkyrie crazy makeups based off of these, and you have Douglas Snow stepping in.
Yeah, that was really cool.
We get 2 celebrity makeup
I know.
artists in this
2
episode.
really great ones.
Yeah, this was a really, really cool one. So ultimately, this challenge, the beginning, is for immunity, which is coveted with only 6 artists left. Can't believe
At this point,
this season.
immunity's a really big deal at this point.
Yeah.
Because we're at the point in the competition now where even makeups that are good, that would have been safe under normal circumstances, are going to be bottom looks now, because the people who you have left are the people who have made it this far in the competition.
Yep.
So you have one even just kind of okay week, not even a bad week, and you could be going home. So getting immunity is huge.
Or, you could have 2 safe looks, 6 top looks, and 3 wins. You never know. Either way.
Yeah,
We're looking at you, Rob. We're looking at you.
No pressure there at all.
Right. I was going to say, because at this point, you have been, you were safe for a while, and basically for the past 6 weeks, you've been a top look or you have won.
Yeah.
Did you get to a point where you felt like this tremendous amount of pressure to stay on top?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes, there was a lot of pressure, and most of it was me putting it on myself.
Of course.
But yeah, there was a lot of performance anxiety going on with that.
But I was gonna say, I feel like there has to be a point to, because you are aware that this is a television show.
Yes.
And so there has to be a little part of you that's thinking, in the future when this is airing, everyone's gonna be like, he's been a top look every single week. Go, Rob! And you're gonna be like, I don't.
Yep.
Well, definitely anytime that you know that you're going to be potentially up on the chopping block, that is going to be nerve-wracking and very stressful.
Yes.
So having a foundation challenge thrown in where there is immunity helped out one lucky contestant this evening.
Just one.
Just the one. Melissa and Yvonne were both kind of vying for that spot. Douglas loved both of them, but ultimately Melissa pulled it out.
She did.
She got the immunity, which honestly, I think that she probably wouldn't have even really needed this week because her look was really good.
I think she would have been safe regardless.
Yeah.
You know, certainly compared to the bottom looks, I think that even though, you know, the judges didn't necessarily get her makeup and they were like, the little indentations on it, they look like animal spots. I don't really know what's happening, but it was a very well executed makeup and was overall a lot more cohesive looking than Robert's makeup, which that was their complaint about, you know, about Robert's makeup as well, was that it didn't really fall within the challenge parameters, and so that's why that was a bottom look. But I still think that Melissa would have been safe.
Yeah. And I definitely want to talk about all of the looks, but first, just a little overview of the challenge itself. As you guys are brought in and you're told there are all of these different vessels, you're going to be choosing a vessel, and that's going to inspire a mischievous genie that you're going to create. And I have to say, these adjectives that you're given, you know, I would kind of go Robert's direction. We'll talk a little bit more about him later on. But I could see how some people would go kind of more whimsical if you have a mischievous. Especially this one, we were given some frames of reference which were still just broad. They were just like, these are movies with genies in them. Aladdin, of course, being one of them. I Dream of Jeannie being an inspiration. But the whole thing, Clash of the Titans, the whole example was, look how broad and diverse this is, and a genie could be anything, and we're not really giving you that many parameters. Very few rules. Don't break them.
It could even be Shaquille O'Neal.
That's my second favorite genie, so yeah.
Kazam.
Kazam. Just had to bring
That
it
one,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, they left them out.
I'm with you, Michelle. They should not have omitted Kazam.
They should
Seriously.
They should have kicked off the list with Kazam, I think.
Was it, Robert, are you familiar with Kazam?
I am not.
Okay. I was going to say, I was like, it might be a little before your time.
I am
that
a
come
wee
out?
babby.
I keep forgetting that you
it just
came
hit me.
out of the womb and then started creating brilliant things immediately. Ugh. Curved breaker at 20.
Yeah.
Crushing it. I love it. You are our Kazam, and you don't even get the reference.
Honestly, I don't
You're
really
a
remember
slam
the
dunk,
plot
sir.
of
The
Kazam.
plot was some kid, I think wasn't it like a boombox or something?
It was
Yeah.
a kid,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
grabs the boombox,
His
and
lamp.
then...
And it was, Shaquille
Was
O'Neal
the
came
boombox.
out and
It
granted
was
him
not-
wishes, and he almost died. It was crazy.
It's an
He
intent.
made it rain candy.
Oh,
I
the
recommend
best.
it. Is what
I'm
I'm
for
saying.
sure
good
watching
one.
it.
It's a very
Anyone.
You all
90s.
have sold it.
Basically, if you had been given a vessel with tiny basketballs all over it, you just would have made Kazam.
They called in a
Now
friend,
you know.
and then Shaquille walks in. It's fine.
And they just gotta start rapping. Then it'll just be the best.
That's, yeah. Well, Melissa ends up getting this kind of abstract looking vessel that has like these decorative elements to it that she wants to incorporate into it. But I just don't understand, like, how do you even pick where to start with something like
I
that?
know.
never
Yeah,
know.
it's such an interesting challenge because you're kind of, okay, you're presented with, all right, this is the bottle, the vase, what have you, that this genie lives in. But it's like, how much do you go, okay, I see this thing, this is how I picture the genie that might live in this bottle might look, and how much do you actually physically incorporate elements of that vessel into your makeup? It's
Because
such a,
she ended up going pretty literal with the translation, having actual pieces kind of out of it and having the gold. I didn't quite understand the green accent that was thrown in, like the kind of splatter.
I think if you look closely on her vessel, there was kind of some tarnish on it. Some greens.
Okay.
You had to look real close, but it was on there.
Okay.
yeah.
That makes some sense.
Yeah,
then.
and I think too that sort of the skin tone that she ended up with came across as sort of a tarnished bronze
It's like
kind
a
of
goldish.
Yeah.
Which it looked really cool. It reminded me a lot if you've seen the 3D optical illusion tattoos. There's like, if you ever click on, like, they always have those articles like, look how cool these 3D tattoos are. And there's that one with this girl that looks like her leg has been whittled out of wood. Yeah.
Yep.
That's very much, I was like, if that came to life, but also looked more like this vessel, it would be like that. But I do understand the judges' feedback saying that, you know, it did look a little bit like animal spots, and also she wanted it to look
not like a condition or like a disease.
It did look like a condition, though.
Yeah, it's so tough to do something where you're making holes and they're going to be a little bit darker than the rest of the tone you're doing for the skin, and have it not read disease makeup. Like there's a very fine line to that, and I think she got very close to doing it well, because there were points where it hit the light and I was like, okay, I can see it's kind of whimsical, a little different, and then you would turn and you would kind of catch the shadows more, and it was like, no, those look a little like boils.
The body looks really cool. The face just looked a little pockmarky. I think was what it is. It just kind of looked like she was a vessel that scratched at herself a little bit, trying to get out of her own bottle.
Would it look better if there was like angles to the circles, maybe, instead of it being completely round? So it doesn't look like her, like she looks like a leper, or anything like that?
I think so too. I actually think if she had gone for harder edge geometric shapes, it might have read less like skin disease.
The diamond pattern.
I think a different wig might have helped a little bit.
I mean, I was like, that looks like me when I wake up in the morning if my hair's not straight, and I was like, ooh, girl, you need some deep conditioning real quick.
It was a little orphan genie.
Yeah, right? And I was like, Annie?
It reminded me of Beyonce in Gold, remember?
Yes! Okay, I forgot about that.
Like a little after.
Which, ironically enough, is my first wish. If I had just personal Beyonce concert. And I'd be like, world peace later, but Beyonce.
I can go for some Foxy Cleopatra. Like,
she's a whole lot of woman.
Oh, yeah,
That was a whole lot of makeup.
It was a lot.
And then Yvonne, who was kind of the first runner-up for the foundation challenge, ended up also not needing that immunity, was safe. This one, though, I wasn't so big on the literal translation of making it look like an elephant. Because
neither were the judges.
I mean, it just seemed weird that was a safe look when the feedback was very similar. This was because not only was this a literal translation, much like Robert's was with his being very cat-like, this one was somewhat minimalistic. I mean, the actual sculpt was incredible.
Yeah.
But when you see the paint and everything, I didn't think immediately genie.
I think, and I think this is just my brain justifying it more so in a way than Robert's, but by my own logic, it doesn't really make any sense what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway.
We were talking about Robert.
Which is that, okay, so for Yvonne, I think that it was her sculpt was cleaner, I think, than Robert's was. And there's this kind of like mysticism to the elephant because of like there's a lot of like elephant gods and like Hindu religion, but by that same logic, however, you could have justified Robert's because of Egyptian mythology.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So it's
weird.
Her description of going with the elephant because the spout looked like a trunk and the handle looked like ears, like that just made me think like My Little Teapot.
Yeah, it did a little bit.
Like I was like, here is my elephant trunk, here is my ear.
Yeah. and I felt like too, the paint on this was clean, but it wasn't very it didn't look very dynamic in like 3 dimension. It looked kind of flat to me. That's the word I'm looking for.
I agree.
Yeah.
I will say though that Yvonne has some of the cleanest edge work of
Yeah.
anyone ever, and there were no edges on that entire makeup.
It looked like an actual real elephant person, like that had just been born and this was a thing. The only reason that I think that it fell short a little bit for me was because I didn't see that and think, just because when I think of Genie, I think bright color, I think just having that be flesh tone. I think if she had made it elephant, but it had been a bright colored elephant.
According to everyone in the chat, Ganesh,
yeah.
isn't he blue? Or am I thinking of the other?
No, he's often blue in illustrations.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
So,
blue with like orange
yeah,
accents.
so that's what I thought that she was going with when she started. And
Right.
I was like, oh no, it's going to be, okay, yeah, sure. But not to get too off topic, I had someone who tried to make an elephant makeup back in college, and she didn't make the snout or the trunk too long, so it kind of looked a little
That's
so like
dangerous.
yeah,
A little
so
gonzo.
yeah. So I remember the professor going, "Do I want to know what's on his nose?" And yeah. So that every time I was looking at her makeup, not to say that it looked like that, it brought me back to that memory and it made me laugh, and I felt really bad. But I thought, sidetrack aside,
So basically, cheers to not making a phallic elephant.
Way to be.
I'm sorry. But I also like the fact that it was just well put together.
Yeah.
That's where I was trying to go with that story.
I feel like if it had just been like purple, then I would have been like, yeah, that's the genie that I want to go grant me wishes.
Yeah.
And I agree wholeheartly with all of those statements. I thought it was very well put together. I thought that the blending and the shading was amazing. It's just, I didn't like looking at a miniature elephant head on a normal human. Like, it freaked me out.
Yeah, the
and I
proportions
also
are
had
weird.
the little side thought that the paint job was so similar to the queen, the evil queen that she had last challenge, that it was like they could have hung out and been huskies. Like, it could have been.
I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Making a story about it.
Now, maybe she could have been a top look, but Rob, the curve breaker, edged her out. Rob, your look was awesome.
Thanks.
This
Loved
look.
it.
Thank you.
I'm totally with V too. Like, the modeling and everything on it was just incredible. I love that it was a bright color. I love that it really evoked originality, but also very genie-like.
Now, Rob, I have to say that I very much enjoyed your response to V when she said that she thought you should have brought some of that paint job up into the face. But this was a really nice makeup, honey. And you just laughed because clearly you had been planning on doing, like, because you were not done with that paint job.
I was not at all. There was a shocking amount of work that I had to do in last looks, and I did not get it all done at all.
And I think it even made it to air one of the comments of, I didn't have time to finish painting the body, but I hope I'm just okay.
Yeah.
And then for V to comment and say that she loved that aspect and she wished she would have done it more.
Yeah.
I laughed with you.
I wanted to do more too, V. I agree.
You're like, I planned to bring it into the face.
But that has to be kind of a good feeling, because you even said, you're like, it looks a lot better on stage than I thought that it would. And then for it to not only be safe, but they're like, you're in the top again. Good job.
Yeah, confidence boost, I guess.
I did really like the earpieces.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. I was like, my favorite pieces were the side pieces, and I was
Those
just
were
like, yes.
annoying to do.
Yeah.
I made the silicone mold like they showed, and I had to run it twice, but it was one piece that I mirrored on each side, so I had to run it and then flip it over and run it on. And it was annoying because it wouldn't fill up all the way. So if you look at the back of it, the backs of those things were all messed up, but the front was pretty. So that's what.
But no, I was just taken aback of how beautiful the sculpture was. It was reminding me of like Road to El Dorado kind of sculptures, and I was like, I want to watch this now. Yeah. So I was super happy about that.
I think this was a scenario where it was incredibly smart to incorporate the vessel itself into the makeup.
Yes, I completely agree.
Because it was cohesive, because it was still organic. It just had that extra oomph. But without that, you would still see it as a form, but not necessarily as an actual vessel with handles until you make that a part of the actual anatomy.
Right.
And so that was just a really, really cool way to incorporate the vessel, but still make it seem like it was not just I'm a pot that's come to life.
And I loved the hair that you added at the top of that. Because for me, that's such an iconic genie moment. And there are only 3 genies I know of that I can give as an example. And one is Genie, and then Jafar when he was briefly
a genie.
Yep. And then I Dream of Genie.
Because
the ponytail was
anyone
just right
who
at
has
the top.
had hair long enough to put into a ponytail, every person here, and probably many people listening, know that sometimes you make your ponytail a little too tight, and it is like your own personal trapped in hell. And so it's only fitting that if that's part of your punishment, is that you are just strapped down and confined, you gotta have a ponytail too, just to remind you.
Just to add that.
Everybody thought it was a hair tie. It was really another.
Yeah.
And what didn't make the cut was that V noticed that, and she applauded me on being the only makeup with the top sort of ponytail.
with the top ponytail.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah. Because that's what really, I mean, that's one of the, we talk about this sometimes when people do cosplay and things, the tell, the one piece, the accessory, the something that you go, oh yeah, that's what that is. Mm-hmm. So, having the handles, that makes it a vase, but having the ponytail really, or having the hair piece, I keep calling it a ponytail, but it just makes it sound like Valley Girl. But that really sets off, and that's kind of your genie tell. So that plus the color makes sense that it was top look.
Yes, absolutely.
Good job. On yet another top look, 6 so far.
Just keep track. A lot. Wow.
We're just gonna have a Rob counter every time, and just ding. It'd be great.
You've had as many wins as there are contestants left. That is true. Top looks as there are.
That's very true.
It's a weird thought.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, now you're thinking it. You're welcome.
Thank you.
But ultimately, Walter, who was here last week, congratulations!
I
know.
Yay!
Pulled out the win, of course, with dragons.
That was every time. Every time.
You cannot go wrong with dragons. Everyone loves dragons.
I also noticed he didn't have to draw last this time.
He did not.
Yay!
I do want to just address the dragon thing because we were talking last week about how adamant you were that you wanted last week's challenge to be dragons. And so when you got to pick first and you went into that room to pick your thing and you had the dragon choice, when you saw these are my options, did you immediately go, that's got to be it? It's got to be dragons.
No, my first choice was the green one. I
way!
wanted something different.
Really?
I loved the handles. I loved the style of it, and I thought I could do something interesting with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you were the only one this week who got what they wanted.
Yeah, everyone kept taking the vessels that other people wanted. Like Mel got upset, and then I think Melissa took the one that Walter wanted.
No, Walter took it, and Melissa was like, "Thanks, Walter."
Yep. Yeah, it was
the half-hearted sorry.
It was an interesting selection.
Selection process, yeah.
Well, Walter ended up he was talking last week about how they were saying, like, oh yeah, Rob was all about the dragons. We were all about the dragons. I just didn't show it. So Walter, you got your dragon.
I'm so happy
and
for you.
Got your win.
Yeah, I was
Walter
very happy
Targaryen holding it down. So this look ended up being really cool because he did this dragon-like thing, this reptilian, but with a witch nose.
I know.
Which also, we were talking about when Michael Westmore comes in and gives you feedback. This one had to be nice when the feedback is, just make sure that this nose is human. Well, here's my sketch. I like that. Go with that. How many times have you had where you're like, all right, this is going to be it. I've got a good idea. This is clear. And then Mr. Westmore comes in and you go, all of that was wrong. Let's...
It happens a good amount. That's why you always go into that conversation with options.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta try not to stick with one idea because more often than not, he's like, let's not do that. And that's when you're like, good, I have these other options. Tell me what I need to do.
Yeah,
that's smart.
Now,
I like that.
Now I was gonna say, and on this challenge too, like he came in and basically like his biggest thing for you was adjusting the nose on your genie, and then it seemed like after that you were sort of in a place of I don't know if I like this.
I liked it. He what he had said was adjust the nose and then make the mouth, and this didn't make the cut, but he said just make it look more powerful.
Okay,
and that's what I tried to do, and I liked it a lot more, but I was just generally not a big fan of the entire thing as a whole, so I was just trying to like move on with it.
The lip sculpt was incredible, though. I'm
you.
glad
Yeah.
that they did point that out. I love when you guys compliment each other, too, and then they show it because it's, having one makeup artist explain, because from our perspective, we see it and we go, yeah, that looks cool. Yeah. I don't know why. It just looks cool.
It does.
So to have one of the fellow contestants, come over and kind of point out things, you're like, oh, yeah, because that is the part that is the coolest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, just kind of circling back to Walter's makeup, we saw him struggling actually with the cowl.
Yeah.
And ultimately, and we talk about this a lot on the show too, but we love how this breaks the mold. Oh God, what a horrible pun!
I know.
That one hurt me. Ow.
I come back on the panel the one time and you break my heart.
But as far as reality competition shows, we normally see a lot of the very diehard, gritty, backstabby things, and this was just another perfect example of Melissa running over, helping Walter, and then Yvonne just immediately like, oh, do you need some help, Walt? And diving in, and 3 contestants all working together to help this one, their competitor.
And what didn't make the cut was that every single one of us ended up outside with like a minute left, all helping him get it cleaned out and closed up. That's why when they show the end of time and we're all covered in stuff and sweating, it's because we were all out in like 110 degree weather helping him get this stuff closed up. So it was a team effort for sure.
Yeah. See, I love that, because then to some degree it's a little bit of a win for everybody, because you're like, you know, my fellow contestant, my fellow awesomely talented makeup artist that has gone this far in this phenomenal competition could have been screwed, but now they're not because of us. Yay! Teamwork. And also, we all did good stuff too. Yay! Because even the worst makeup tonight was still really good. So Walter, I'm so excited that he got this win. It was definitely well deserved, because awesome look. No, we were talking a little bit before about the color palettes for all of the makeups, and with it being 6 different makeups, it did seem to be that there were 2 teal ones, 2 flesh colored, and 2 metallic-y.
Yep.
And not intentionally, but ended up lining up on stage, and you're like, oh, well, there are the various counterparts that you can.
Because when we were in the lab and in last looks, we didn't really look around.
No,
so
of course.
By the time we got on stage, we're all like, "Oh my god, they're all matching. What do we do?" It was a very weird experience.
That's awesome.
Has that ever happened?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
That's the first time I've seen it. I like to pretend like there were 2 different vessels and 3 different caves. And everyone just went and happened to get like 2 that were in the same cave.
I can just see like a cartoon series of like the same, like the little duos, and they're just hanging out and doing stuff like, I can get more wishes than you, okay, fine. And then they're running around and doing that kind of, I don't know. That's how my brain went as I was watching the show.
I feel like it's sort of surprising in some ways that it doesn't happen more often, because I mean, at this point in the competition, it's like, you have been working alongside these people, if not frequently in collaboration with them for so long that you know, similar color palettes or sculptural forms might inadvertently start to appear.
Well, and I will say for this challenge, it's lamps. You know, you can't
really.
Typically, you don't find. I love lamp. Typically, thank you. That was beautiful. Typically, you don't tend to find a lamp that kind of deviates from that metallic-y, tealish type color scheme, you know? If you've seen one, I would love to see it.
Well, I think there were a couple this week that had some different color, but they all to some point do have some of the
bronzy,
same the same basic.
You're right, because lamp.
Cause lamp. Hashtag cause lamp. Why not? So, couple looks this week. Unfortunately, did miss the mark a little bit. Mel made my heart hurt.
Oh, the whole time.
A little bit, because we talked about how you guys had 2 awesome guest judges.
Oh, Mel.
Oh,
Douglas Snow, the first one. Bill Corso, phenomenal. Worked on Deadpool, Force Awakens. He's Bill Corso. So, Mel, big fan of him. Not so much of her own work this week.
I know, and her comment to him was so cute when she was like, I'm a really big fan of yours. It's so cool to meet you. I'm sorry, this is my makeup.
Just my whole body was just like, no.
It was the cutest and saddest moment that I think we've seen thus far.
I think Michelle had the best thing. I was just like, oh, you're so precious.
It was just such a precious, honest moment that I related to so strongly. I was like, that's how I would react.
So many times.
Well, because Mel ultimately, she wanted to do a gazelle type creature, because there were some references to that in her vessel, but they were small. They were not. It definitely wasn't an overpowering part of the whole design. So making that her look and her primary focal element Mr. Westmore felt was not the best direction. So she ended up scrapping everything, going a totally different direction, which ended up costing her a lot of time, which meant that she wasn't able to ever fully flesh out what she wanted to do. But she did add some really cool things, like cutting up the cups and adding the tubing.
I was going to say, I actually would have liked to get a better look at her cowl, because I have a feeling the cowl was better than I think it was, because the problem was that there was so many sort of structural missteps on the face that I think it distracted from the really good work that she actually did do on the cowl.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what I think it was Bill Corso himself said, was that she would have done better to just scrap the face and just keep the cowl and done a really good kind of beauty makeup into it.
Yep.
Which...
Go ahead. Beck A says, I was convinced if they'd chosen her to go home, they would have used the save on her.
I completely agree with that. I totally do.
I feel, I agree. I think that, but man, there's only now after this episode 5 left.
I know.
When are you going to use that? When, I mean, come on, man. It's like I feel like I'm playing a board game and somebody has like this trump card that they're holding on to. I'm like, just play it. I've been waiting like 5 spins.
No, don't play Munchkin with Elena. Never.
That is my response. Is I just get like more and more infuriated. But that's how I feel, and I also want it to be a physical, big, shining golden ticket that they hand to someone.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be verbal. I want a physical, like I want them to break some glass and like
confetti falling, balloons.
Confetti, it's a parade.
I want it. If anybody's ever seen the TV show on Comedy Central Review, where they have like it's a ridiculous parody show. It's hilarious. But they have this big glass box with a like basically an I'm gonna skip this one card that they have to like break the glass open and get it out, and that's what I want. I want a big envelope.
I will volunteer
the big golden star.
as tribute to have just a giant gong and just hit it when it happens.
That's what I want.
Yes.
I want it to be like, this makeup wasn't that great, but you are.
Some people just come out and they're like, yeah.
Then just all the past makeups line up and dance.
I would love it. I realize this would never happen in a million years if like Tyra Banks came out to announce that the immunity was
and then you gotta have Beyonce come out there and they have to do a little thing. It'll be great.
Because she was so good at throwing those curveballs.
She
on
was.
America's Next
She
Top
was really
Model.
good.
So
In other words,
you know what?
this is all of our wishes. If these genies had these capabilities.
But listen,
Tyra Banks, Beyonce.
But you know who absolutely would grant this crazy Tyra Banks Beyonce party wish?
Oh yeah!
That has to
Great
be.
transition!
Yes.
Oh
Yes. Robert has created an amazing cat lady genie.
I thought it was great.
This was the one that I was saying, that went completely opposite direction from the teal, gold, whatever. This one is a bright red, and his mentality, I, again, just want to crawl into Robert's head and live there for a while. He sees it and goes, that looks like a cat eye. Which you probably need to take your cat to the emergency room immediately, Robert, because the cat eyes are not supposed to be bright red like that. But he ended up making a really cool makeup that didn't quite fit the challenge, but still was. This is the thing. We've talked about this a couple times. Our judging criteria, we love the cinematic quality. We love something that tells a story, and we feel like a really good story sometimes can save a makeup. If Robert, he explained her as the party genie, but when he explained to us, not to the judges, I loved his story of she's in a bottle and she's bored, obviously. So when you rub the bottle, she grants you 3 extravagant parties, each more extravagant than the next.
Right.
The last one ends with Tyra Banks and Beyonce. And David Hasselhoff as a car shows up. It's great.
As a car?
Yeah.
I am
full
okay
Kung
with that.
Fury
Right.
style.
I mean, that's listen, Germans love the Hoff.
That was for
legitimately
Robert.
do.
That was, we already have ours.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if you message him and tell him about this whole thing, he will Photoshop an entire image of this and
Where
send
you
it
at,
to you.
Robert? Where are you?
It's
All right,
on you, Robert.
I'm waiting for
We
you,
want
Robert.
a tiny cameo from Lance the land crab in the corner.
Yes, please.
Yeah, let's get that.
structured it.
Let's share that on the show. That'll be magical.
Hashtag, please.
I was with Glenn on this one where he said, you know, this is one of the most spectacular makeups that you have come up with.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense for this challenge. Because, I mean, even... And I know that we got away from the antelope. We still had the elephant. Those at least were in the design itself.
Yes. Yeah.
There were no cats.
No,
and there were no drunk cats. And there were no drunk party cats.
No,
but there should have been. And so Robert corrected that problem.
He did. He fixed it.
And made the vase better.
One of my favorite moments of this whole episode was when the models show up, and so everyone's showing up, and they're going to their makeup artist, and so Megan goes up to Robert, and he goes, "We're going to turn you into a party animal," and she just goes, "Yay!"
And she just rocks. I mean, she rocks it every time she gets into her makeup, but she was just adding on to it this
She
time.
had so much fun.
She was
doing
rocking
this
the
week.
sass in that dress,
I
and it was
want to
beautiful.
party with Megan as Party Genie Cat.
I think she would get us all drunk, though. Like,
Immediately.
Like,
we
yeah.
would just, we wouldn't even drink anything. She would just be like, "Wish granted." And we're like, "Oh, that's crazy." And then like Backstreet Boys starts playing and we're like,
Yes.
"Oh, yeah."
I will say,
my heart,
oh, I'm not a cat person, so maybe I'm completely off the mark, but cats don't strike me as party animals.
You don't hang out with the right cats. You need to hang out with some cool cats.
and we're back.
Oh,
We're just hurting Rob at this point. This is the only loss she's suffered on Face Off thus far.
no. So many puns.
I have to deal with this all the time. I love her, but terrible. But if I could just recall from the beautiful brains that are sitting in this room right now, what can you actually take from his lamp?
See, his lamp reminded me, which doesn't help at all for this challenge,
Oh
but it
boy.
reminded me of Casper. The movie Casper. The elixir of life concoction
yeah,
thing. Like, it was a very
yeah.
similar shape, and the red was the exact same color, and I was like, ghost. And then it was like, genie.
Ghost Genie.
Genie ghosts, they
Genie
they're similar. They're both
There's a thing there.
transparent and some things.
I just had a hard time trying to figure out what to take from
Yeah.
his. Because when he picked it up, I was like, oh, that's cute. What are you gonna do with that?
Right?
And then he, the party animal.
I
Okay,
will
sure.
say, yeah, one thing about Robert, he did not even flinch. Like, he
Nope.
just
Grabbed
picked it
it.
up and he was like, "Yes, I have an idea. I have the full story. I have the name of the character. I know the beginning, the middle, the end. I know the twist. I know." He has the whole.
But what's new? That's just
Yeah,
Robert.
I know,
right?
We expect nothing less.
He has an
love
amazing
it.
talent for that.
The only thing is, I feel like she should have been drinking eggnog because I feel like alcoholic milk
Eggnog.
for a party
Yeah,
cat.
that makes
Okay.
sense.
Like, that's
Clever.
just
Also, to answer your question, because I also agree with Renji in the chat, is that there are cool party animal cats, and it's
Okay.
Aristocats.
Oh
yeah, everybody
Oh.
wants to be a cat.
Yep.
Unfortunately, even though we want to party with Robert's cat Genie, the judges did not get the invitation to that party, apparently.
I was so sad.
But coolest exit interview
yes.
I'm seeing
So great.
is that his final makeup was a gift to the world, and
We
you're
are
so welcome.
We are welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you so much.
Robert.
I'm so happy.
I don't even know what else to say. Like, just
I'm a hot
I
mess.
mean, this is the thing. It's something we talk about on the show a lot, which is as going into the challenges, it's almost like you want to be on top or you want to be on the bottom. Like being safe week
talking
after
about Face
week gets frustrating.
Sorry.
Yes, we are still talking about Face Off.
Sorry.
do we have a Casper match?
Sorry, Emma, you were saying?
Yes, because being safe week after week basically means that, okay, this makeup is good, but it's not really leaving an
Yeah,
impression one way or the other.
Yeah.
We
And
will
I
not
mean,
forget that
We
cat
will
Genie.
never ever forget that cat Genie.
Ever.
It's
Ever.
a cool cat Genie.
It was. It really was.
I dig it, and I still attest the only reason that Robert went home this week was because he didn't have time to give his cat genie a tiny friend.
Yes.
I know.
I agree with that.
If the cat genie had a sidekick,
We'd be good to go.
he'd still be kicking it with the cat genie.
Yep.
Yep.
But Robert, we love you. We think
do.
you're
You're
amazing. We
great.
can't wait to see more from you.
Yes, please.
Like you hanging out in bacon costumes, you awesome man, you. So, Rob, let's dive right into some of what you've been up to recently. You've got
All right.
tons of stuff going on.
Quite a bit of stuff happening. Yep.
Pretty fitting that we're talking about genies and magical things because
Yes.
you are the magic man himself.
Yes, I am a co-owner of a company called Chimera Magic Supply, and basically it's me and two of my FX friends, and we make magical things. We have real wooden carved wands. We have magical creatures, magical stuff, crystals, a lot of cool stuff. We make what we want to see in the world. Because we just want to see it in the world. And if people buy it, that's cool, but we just like to make the stuff. So.
You had me at magical.
Yep.
Do you guys have like an online store? Or?
We have an Etsy,
Okay, cool.
Chimera Magic Supply, and our Instagram is Chimera Magic Supply. Just look for those 3 words, and you'll find us.
I know.
For
Cool.
anybody who's listening and not necessarily watching or seeing in the comments, how do you spell that for them?
It is CHIMERA Magic Supply.
Sweet.
There you go.
Brilliant.
Boom.
Awesome. Do you
So-
guys do like custom orders, or do you just?
We do with some of our products.
Okay.
A lot of the times it's paint job wise.
okay.
You can request certain colors. When it comes to certain wand types, you can request certain things. We're very cooperative.
Great.
We make little faux potions, and if you basically tell us what you want, we'll make it for you.
Amazing.
Nice.
Amazing.
wow.
I might need you to make me my Pottermore wand.
We can do that.
I'm so down.
Have you been using your potions to cast a spell on the judges this whole time? Did we just figure it out?
Maybe just a little bit, but
See, Robert was onto something.
Yep.
He knew about the demons in his makeup. You had winter potion in yours the whole time.
Yeah.
And they get the Rob seal of approval.
That's it.
They'll never
can't do
get
it anymore.
better.
I'm going back in the booth.
Any other projects you're working on that you want to tell us about?
I have a few demos coming up at conventions.
Excellent.
Yay.
Don't know if I can talk about those quite yet, but there are a few coming up. I will be at WonderCon, I will be at Comic Con,
Excellent.
and I will be at Dragon Con.
Oh, very cool.
Dragons. I'm telling you.
Every time.
They always make their way in. I will also have a table with Chimera Magic Supply at Monsterpalooza.
Oh, great.
So we will be there. So come stop by if you're in town.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great.
So where can we find more from you on the interwebs and about?
On Instagram and Twitter, I am @RobSeal_5341, and then Facebook, Rob Seal.
Awesome. Great.
Nice.
Thank you so much for coming and being on the
Yeah,
show.
super fun.
You are
Thank
awesome. We love everything that you have done on the show. Surprise, surprise. You've had so many bottom looks that have just been
A lot of real clunkers there, Rob.
Shame.
And we're super excited to see more from you next week, too, where we'll be seeing Awesome Look through one eye.
Through one eye only.
Through one eye only.
Is it a cat eye?
Oh, no.
It could be. It could be.
Too soon. Too soon.
Too soon.
Until next week, where can we find more from you, phenomenal ladies?
You can find me on Twitter at Michelle_Cullen.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma Fyffe. You can find me on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzzTV.com. I am currently on Transformers, Robots in Disguise, Bob's Burgers, Star Wars Rebels, and this one, I think that's it, and then a bunch of like one-off shows that only happen every once in a while. Follow me on Twitter and you'll know everything that I'm doing.
You can find me all over social media as atorres890. Definitely go find my YouTube channel, youtube.com/atorres890 to watch my vlogs that I do on Wednesdays, which I did one today called Hump Day Lunch Hour, where I talk about random topics on Hump Day, which is today, and just, hang out with me. I love it. I love it. Thanks.
And you can find more from me on Twitter at Alana Jordan and on Instagram at that Alana Jordan Girl. You can keep in touch with all of us by using that hashtag ABTVFaceoff. And again, be sure to subscribe. If you're on YouTube, click that little red button. Do it. You want to. And then keep up with us, comment, leave us all of your notes, rate, and then come back here next week and we'll see you again. Woo!
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AFTERBUZZTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AFTERBUZZ TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.